I'm Emily P. Freeman, and welcome to The Next Right Thing. You're listening to episode 375. This is a podcast about making decisions, but also about making a life. If you struggle with decision fatigue, chronic hesitation, or if you just need a few minutes away from the constant stream of information and the sometimes delightful but distracting hum of entertainment, you're in the right place for discerning your next right thing. I'm an author, a spiritual director, and an occasional workshop leader. I live in North Carolina with my family, and through my work, I've helped thousands of spiritually thoughtful people overcome decision fatigue so that they can discern their next right thing in faith, work, and life. An often unspoken spiritual practice, one that does not make it into sermons or how-to guides, is the unconventional practice of crying in your kitchen. More specifically, navigating surprising or unwelcome emotion with kindness rather than control. Listen in. Over the last few months, it's happened a handful of times where I'll be doing something normal, like walking through the store, or checking my email, or reading a book, cleaning my kitchen or my office, and then something comes to mind and I will instantly start to cry. Sometimes it's tearing up. Other times it's a full-on sob that will come forth unexpectedly from where I have no idea. And it takes me by surprise every time. Now, I admit often when this happens, I will try to figure out, why am I crying? The truth is there could be a million reasons. It could be hormones. It could be empty nest reasons, or it could be something vastly different, like the lack of humanitarian aid in Gaza, or hostages that are still being held by Hamas, or nostalgia about my own childhood, imagining what it's going to be like one day to lose one of my parents, feeling overwhelmed about meeting a deadline, a deep sense of gratitude, exhaustion. If there's one thing I've learned through over a decade of being in spiritual direction and over the last few years of being a spiritual director, is that why, the question why, is often an unhelpful question when it comes to the human soul. Because what we might be actually looking for when we ask why is a reason that we can point to and potentially, one, solve, or two, eliminate. It's an attempt at control, and I'm losing my appetite for it. Because, of course, it could be news things or personal things or hormonal things. It could be all of those things. It could be none of those things. But the human reality is, for me and for you, there are things. The unconventional spiritual practice of crying in your kitchen isn't necessarily about the crying itself or crying at all. It's about, what do we do when an emotion takes us by surprise? Instead of working to overthink it, I've been practicing doing things differently these days. And this is back to not wanting to just be over hyper fixated on the question of why, where are these tears coming from, or where is this emotion coming from? It's because even if you know why the emotion is heightened, the anger, grief, frustration, sadness, envy, then what? There's this unspoken assumption that figuring out the root of it is going to solve something or help us get things together. And of course, listen, there is a place to explore the root, but sometimes knowing exactly why just ends up leaving me in the exact same place I was in. I know why I'm sad, angry, jealous, confused, but now what? What do I do with these uncomfortable feelings? I know I'm focusing on tears in this conversation and in the title of the episode, but I want to broaden it to say uncomfortable feelings can manifest in a lot of ways for all of us. It could be through low-key or high-key anger, frustration, confusion, distraction, basically any experience that we did not expect, don't fully understand, and don't particularly want or enjoy. So what can we do when we find ourselves surprised by this kind of human experience? Well, first, here are some things I'm working not to do. One, don't avoid it. In her book, Learning to Walk in the Dark, Barbara Brown Taylor says this, quote, "We are a culture that lights the way from the bed to the bathroom so our kids don't have to walk in the dark. Collectively, we don't know how to express our grief and sorrow. Instead, we're taught to avoid it. And so, my question is, what if instead of turning away from that which we don't understand, we chose to turn toward it? Second thing I'm not doing, or I'm working not to do, is to scold or shame myself for these experiences or these emotions. Maybe you're someone who grew up in a family or an environment where any kind of what seemed to be uncontrolled or unbidden emotion was seen as a sign of weakness or immaturity. And even if you know better than that by now as a grown up, it's still possible that on some level you feel shame for having an emotional experience. So it helps me to remember that no one has ever been shamed into peace, into comfort, or into freedom. Another thing we can work not to do is don't rush them. Don't rush the tears or the emotion. Nobody likes feeling stuck, but rushing through uncomfortable emotion does not make it go away. It just puts it off for later. And while that could be appropriate for a moment, remember the soul and the schedule do not follow the same rules. So saying things like, "Ah, I should be over this by now," or "I can't believe this still bothers me," that implies that we have this preconceived idea about the appropriate amount of time something should bother us or wound us or grieve us. And when that timeline has passed, we revert to shaming or rushing because surely we've passed the finish line by now. We should be done with this. But that is actually what keeps us stuck. Another thing I'm working not to do, and I know a lot of us, and Brene Brown has taught us this, I feel like, or other very smart people, is don't apologize for the tears, for the emotion, for for having a human experience. When you let yourself feel deep emotion, even the unwanted kind, you don't even realize how it gives other people unspoken permission to feel it too. So, those are a few things I'm working not to do. But what are some things that we can do when uncomfortable emotion takes us by surprise? Well, first of all, feel it. Laughter is the natural expression of joy, lament is the natural expression of grief. But it has been trained out of us. Most people are fairly comfortable to share the expression of joy. In our Western culture, we are less comfortable with the expression of grief. In their book, Burnout, authors Emily and Amelia Nagoski explore the causes of burnout. And one of them is that while we may have learned to deal with the stressor, we do not know how to deal with the stress. They ask the question, why do animals shake? Well, they're releasing the stress. They're completing their stress cycle. For us, the secret to unlocking the stress cycle is to hug, cry, run, take a deep breath, to let the emotion go all the way through to the other side, to find a way to release the stress itself. Most of the time, we just move from stressor to stressor, never releasing the stress. When we skip lament, we're moving from grief to grief. I'm not saying all surprising emotions are evidence of grief all the time, but I am saying that the most important action to take when emotion takes us by surprise is to let it. No explaining, no meaning making required. Another thing to do when emotion takes you by surprise, be your own friend. What if you moved toward yourself instead of away? What if you acknowledged that something needs to be felt before it can be figured out? What if you allowed the tears, the anger, the frustration, confusion to be a prayer without any words? Sometimes that's what prayer is, simply inviting God to join us where we actually are, not because God isn't already here, but because the act of the invitation reminds us that it's true. While you may not always be able to attend to a surprising emotion in the moment, I wonder what would happen if you acknowledge to yourself, I know I can't fully go there right now, but I see you. You're not alone. We'll come back to this. Instead of asking, where is this coming from? Try asking, what is this pointing to? Only when we faced, allowed, felt, and companioned our emotion are we ready to begin to ask any kind of action question. That's why it's this last one here at the end. This might not always be applicable, but sometimes I find it helpful on the other side of a surprising emotion, rather than spending my time trying to figure out where it's coming from and what's the root. I've started to ask instead, what is this pointing to? And what is my next right thing? Is it to journal through the experience? Is the emotion trying to tell me something that I can't hear any other way? Is it to make something right with someone I love? Is it to work for some type of justice? Do I need to plan a day off or a weekend away? Maybe I need extra support in the form of a friend or a counselor, a pastor or a spiritual director. Maybe I'm being invited to stand up or speak out or put my foot down in some area, and my body and my emotion is trying to get my attention. Sometimes prayer looks like crying in the kitchen, angry scrubbing the floor, taking a mental health moment in your car on a lunch break. There are so many ways to talk to God, and literally any ground can be holy. Grief, overwhelm, and tenderness will always show up in the ordinary corners of our lives. Maybe today, your next right thing is to let them, and then get curious about where they lead. Thanks for listening to episode 375 of The Next Right Thing. I hope this simple practice of crying in your kitchen can be just one more rung on the trellis upon which your rhythm of life can continue to grow. Because while it's true, this is a podcast about making decisions, the bigger truth is our daily decisions are making our lives. If you want to explore the practice of prayer and all the ways it shows up in our everyday lives, check out episode 358. It's called Pray However You're Able. And I share some listener questions people had about prayer, as well as 12 ways to practice it that go beyond close your eyes and bow your head. Now, question for you. Have you downloaded the Quiet Collection app in the Apple or Google Play Store? It's free to download, and we have some of the Psalms recorded there that you can listen to for free right now today. You can also listen to some borrowed prayers that I've recorded to help you if prayer is hard for you right now, but you want to rely on some prayers that those who have come before us have penned and have been practiced by Christians throughout the ages. Then you can find those for free there in the Quiet Collection app. You can also purchase the brand new birthday collection if you have a birthday in October or know someone who does. We created a 7-day birthday reflection series designed to listen to every day of the week leading up to your birthday. Just navigate to the collections section of the app and follow the instructions there. To gift the collection, all you need is your recipient's name and email address, and we'll do the rest. As always, you can find me online at emilypfreeman.com or on Instagram at emilypfreeman. Remember, we also have these episodes available on YouTube if you prefer watching to listening. This episode was edited by the team at Unmutable and organized by Ashley Sherlock. In closing, here are a few words from Psalm 56, verse 8. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.